Hello YouTube, this is student 4 from class of 4 talking about how to write essays part 2. The first part of the writing essays video is in the description below, and that is about the preparation process. And right now I will be talking about how to write the essay itself. I like to think of it as an essay of having three main components. The first is the thesis, or the introduction, and this is one paragraph. And then you have the second part, the main component of the essay, a series of body paragraphs. Generally there is more than one, and you could have up to 8 or 9 or even 10, depending on how long the essay has to be, or how much you have to write about it, but generally there's no more than 3 to 5 body paragraphs. And then you have the concluding paragraph, which is just one paragraph, and that acts to wrap up the essay. So the first part, the thesis or introduction. There are three main components to a good thesis or introductory paragraph, I feel. And this is where you need to set some context to give a little bit of the argument you'll be talking about and an overview of your main points. So what I mean by context is that there should be some basic background information for the essay that you're writing, so that anyone who reads it can understand what it is about. You should give some sort of statement about the topic, and give 2 or 3 basic very brief statements that summarize the most important pieces of information you found in your research. The second part is the argument, or what I like to call the thesis statement. And this summarizes your main argument or statement in the essay. It can be just one sentence, or it could be split up into 2 or 3 sentences. The thesis statement should summarize your main points along with the main argument or statement you are giving. The exact structure of the thesis statement will vary depending on the subject you are writing for, the preferences of whomever is marking it, and the audience you are writing for. But what it needs to do essentially is say what you will be talking about in this essay. The third part is the overview of points. This could be included in the thesis statement, or it might not be, but in the introductory paragraph there should be and must be at least a brief summarization of the main points your essay will contain. They should be listed without giving much proof about why they are correct, so you do not need to give a lot of research here. And they should be listed in the order that you'll be talking about them, or writing about rather. So the points should be ordered in a logical way that helps prove your argument or statement well. For example, if the points make sense to be laid out in a chronological or linear manner, then it simply would not do to have them organized in a thematic way. So if I were writing a history paper on, say, the origins of World War II, it is very likely that I would be writing it in a chronological or linear order rather than a thematic one, although there are several approaches where thematic order would make sense rather than linear. Now, after the introduction, you should have the body paragraphs, and you will, without a doubt, have them. And these are made up of 3 main components, and I call this the PPE model. The first P stands for point, the second P stands for proof, and the third P the E stands for explanation. Point means the first sentence of the body paragraph, and if it does not give some context about what you will be writing about, so a little bit of historical or factual context, this point should be the statement of what the paragraph will be about. And within each paragraph, there should be subpoints that are introduced in a similar manner, so a very direct, short statement, but they should be within each paragraph, not without having its own separate paragraph, because they are, after all, just backing up your main ideas. And then you will have the main proof. This is where the research comes in handy. After a point has been stated, the proof or proofs that work to justify your point should follow. And this is normally made up of excerpts, or in the case of very short sources, the whole thing, the entirety of primary or secondary sources. And it is best not to include too much proof for each point. So only one or two articles of proof, so quotations or otherwise, are normally needed for each point and sub-point. And then you will end up having the explanation, and this is where the majority of your writing occurs. The proof you gave to justify the point you're making has to be explained. This means that the link between the proof and the point needs to be made very clear. To do this well, a logical and obvious connection or multiple connections must be made. Without explaining the proof in detail, all you will have is a point that is just a statement on its own, followed by a series of sentences that show that you did some research. And this is just a collection of sentences which do not work as an essay, and rather it becomes descriptive. Essays tend to be argumentative, so always try to have some sort of so what statement going on throughout your paper. And to avoid having just a collection of sentences, you need to explain why the proof works to prove your point. So the reader should feel like the point you're making makes a lot of sense, that it is valid, that it is something that matters in the grand scheme of the main topic. And try to avoid having jumps in logic. And by jumps in logic, I mean connecting the proof to the point by explaining without explaining the whole reasoning process. It is in fact better to slightly over-explain a point rather than under-explain it. If multiple sentences are required to make the proof connect well with the point, and multiple sentences normally are used as the explanation, then you should use multiple sentences. And of course, you need to repeat this PPE process for as many body paragraphs you have. And for each main point should indeed have its own separate body paragraph, as I've said. And furthermore, each paragraph should have a concluding sentence that links it back to the main thesis statement clearly and concisely. And this brings us to the concluding paragraph. And there should be a summary of points, a restatement of your argument, and a big picture idea. The summary of points. So in a good conclusion, there is almost always a quick summary of the main points that were outlined in the essay. There should be more detail than you had in the introduction, so a little bit of explanation about the main proofs that were used, but there shouldn't be so much detail that the conclusion reads like a mini essay. Just one or two sentences to sum up each point is normally more than enough. And then, after you have restated your main points, you will restate the main argument. And the main argument you are making should be restated by taking the thesis statement and rewording it. So this could take from anywhere from 1 to 2 or even 3 sentences. Now, the big picture idea does not have to be there in every single essay, but I highly recommend having it there, because the big picture idea functions to relate your essay and the whole topic to a big thematic idea. And linking your essay to a large theme will help the reader understand all or most of the implications of your essay and make it just so much easier to understand what you are writing about. And of course, it will make your points somewhat slightly more valid by linking it to other ideas that are relevant in real life outside of the scope of your topic. And this is the entirety of how to write an essay. Thank you for watching.